YouTube.
All right, thanks, Mark. All right, so thank you everybody for joining us for the policy subcommittee meeting today on December 12th. Uh, as you recall from the last couple of meetings, we are working our way through a overarching review of each of the areas of board policy. So today we're looking at the Alpha E's, which is student support services, and then the Alpha F's, which is going to be facilities. So those are the two groups. So it is a lot of policies and regulations that fall into this grouping, especially in the E group. You can see, as Tom has pulled up on the screen, kind of the breakdown by category. We had 11 that had some pretty significant updates or changes to match current practice. We had 25 that were more minor edits, cleaning up typos, fixing titles, cleaning up some cross references, and then also just updating some verbiage to the more modern verbiage in some areas. We have two that are able to be rescinded. Those are regulations that we're recommending we just move the language that's in the regulation into the policy. And then we had seven that had been reviewed within the last year. So we're not recommending any changes in those. For example, like the lactation policy that we just updated about 6 months ago, there wasn't just no need to make any more changes to that. So that's the breakdown for the E's. So within the E's, were there any you had questions about on the major edits?
Monies?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just first question. Everyone has them being adopted on February 23rd. Is that the board meeting that these are all to be adopted?
That would be second reading.
That's the
Correct.
second reading.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. All right. Just wanted to make sure. I've got some cleanups on some, but I've got some that I'm curious on. How
Okay.
do you do that?
Anything on EBAB?
EBAB, yeah, page 2 of 5, first line, real rinky-dink thing, okay? It says, first line, it says contact, I think you mean contract, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, it's rinky-dink, but
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to figure, when I read it, it stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. How about EBBA? I got a curiosity on that one. When we're ready for that one.
Mm-hmm.
Why drop the AEDS? We're doing this. Are we not doing training on that, or why was that dropped out?
So we are doing training on the AEDs, and we have AEDs in all of our schools. However, we're not training all students on AEDs. We are training students on CPR. It really comes down to the population of student that we serve. That in our special education buildings, the statute requires CPR. We're doing CPR. We are introducing students to the AEDs, but we didn't want to commit to
Okay,
the
all
level of
right.
training
Okay,
varying by student population.
that's fine. I was worried that we were going to just exclude it, and I find that I think that's extremely important, and it doesn't take much training on that one. That's
No, it
pretty.
doesn't. Yeah, it's
That's
it's just yeah, it's really just we wanted to have that flexibility based on
okay.
student
All right,
population,
that makes sense. I was
how
just
far
worried
we
that
go.
we were dropping it.
Yeah, no, we're not dropping it.
Can I have another question?
On EBBA?
No,
Oh,
my next questions are on EHB. I think it's M. I can't read my own writing. Or might be maybe it's an R1.
so EHB technology use or
Yes,
EH? Mhm.
EHB. Is there an R1?
There's an R1. Yep.
Yeah, when we get to R1, I've got a question.
Hmm.
Anything before that?
Um, nope. Okay. Yeah, so we can look at EHB R1.
Please. Here's when you have the technical. I know we have a separate policy on AI,
Hmm.
which we didn't do anything with. I mean,
Because it's been updated recently. Yeah, it was on one of the ones that it's been recently updated.
Is there a way that we can put a link to our AI policy to EHB R1? Mainly
So,
because
so
there
we,
was
so we
nothing
have,
involved in this on
yeah,
this policy on that.
so we have cross references on the policies. We don't always include cross references on the
On the
regulations,
regulation. Okay.
but we can add a cross reference here. That's not a
It,
problem.
it's just that the one hot topic that I keep hearing about
Yeah.
is AI. AI this, AI that. And
Hmm.
I just thought a cross reference there would look
Yeah, or we
nice.
could add a sentence in the regulation for questions regarding
I
artificial
like that. Yeah.
intelligence, refer to policy,
Policy.
and then and direct them that way.
It's just that I thought that was the one that's the big hot topic.
It
And
is.
I
Yep.
mean that's all I seem to hear about. Okay.
I want to be clear. Are we talking about R1 or R2?
So R1 is technology usage, filtering of content, and then R2 is technology safety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I do think that it's more applicable to R2.
Hmm. That's what okay. I
Um,
thought we were on R1, so I was like,
yeah,
oh, this makes more sense for R2.
it does. It does.
Okay, thank
I
you.
I just want some cross reference someplace.
Yeah, one of them,
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah. So we have it in the policy, but we can include it in R2 as well.
Okay, could you go through ECG with me?
Hmm. Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not. Just
yeah.
explain this one to me because when I read it, I wanted to make sure I understood it. Here was the reason why I wanted to go through this. Wendy, I'm sure you remember. You've been. We got probably the worst time that I've ever seen us get beat in a courtroom was over this. And Kevin, this was before your time.
Hmm.
We got sued one time, and it was Brian Cave who was our legal thing, and they had just switched us to a new attorney. Do you remember that, Wendy? Goya was her name. And what had happened was we had an individual who wanted to have a service dog, and this was a this and we said we can't do this because the worker who was there was deathly afraid of animals, and so we denied it. So we took this all, they sued us in federal court. At that time, Brian Cave, I'll never forget that. I mean, that just was beyond me. Brian Cave charged us for all this stuff. They never did the research on the Missouri law on service dogs. We ended up
Hmm.
getting sued. We lost 750 grand.
Yeah.
And I, after that one, this one, I just want to make sure people understand it because
Yeah, and that's why
we
it
got
does have
tanked.
the you'll see the legal cross reference at the bottom, which references um, the that's the Missouri reference there at the bottom towards the Missouri regulation that applies to this. And we did consult with Bo Tomachek as we were doing the review of this, as well as the MSBA recommendations to making sure what we have in here is directly aligned to state and federal requirements and regulation. And so that's part of the reason why we didn't recommend any edits to this, is this is still very comparable to what the original MSBA recommendation is, factoring in that precedent of the case you're referencing, Dr. Cuneo.
The other thing on this one was I thought all the other, maybe I'm wrong, okay? I thought the other ones had February 23rd, 2026 as the adopt date.
Hmm. Oh, this one
Why
has
is this?
24th. Yep, so that should be 23rd. That's just to
Okay,
clarify.
I
We can
was
get that
just wondering
fixed.
why it was different.
Yeah,
And I
that's Keystroke
apologize
error.
for my obsessiveness.
Mhm.
Other than that, it wasn't that many years ago. Well, yeah, it was. It was before Dr. Macklin. It was with Dr. Keenan. We had a kid who wanted to bring a service dog that it was written into his IEP. Wendy, you remember the IEP dog, and who could stop this kid from exploding. It was a kid out of Melville. That's what I remember. It was a Melville kid, but it was at which one of our was one of our was it South Tech? No, not Southview. And we denied it. And we said that was because we didn't know if this kid could take this dog out to go to the bathroom because he was the child had serious difficulties, was blind, and was autistic. I thought we opened ourselves for a suit. And remember the name of?
Yeah.
Oh, this is alive. I can give a name.
Yep. So this is a public meeting. Yeah.
I can't give a name then of a student.
No.
Okay.
So,
But
but yeah,
anyhow,
that's something that we factored in when we reviewed that policy.
yeah, okay. I just didn't want that to happen to us again. Okay. All right.
Kevin, I
Yes,
would recommend looking at all of the dates because there are random February 24th.
there's a couple from February 24th on there.
Yes.
Yep, we can do that.
I apologize. Someone's at my door.
Hmm.
Next one I got is EHB.
Okay.
And Kevin, again, I apologize for being obsessive. Okay. This is not a big deal. On EHB, the first sentence,
Primarily.
Yeah, primarily. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, it didn't make sense to me. I was trying to figure out how you want to put that.
Yeah.
Primarily, I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I had. It was just I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Cuneo, you don't have to apologize for the persnicketyness. It counts, it matters, and we will make these edits. No trouble. Thanks for showing it to us.
Absolutely. All right. And then anything else on the E's?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Except, don't have me read that many at one time.
Yeah.
That'll put you to sleep.
It will. Yeah. The E's are a fun one. The F's are a smaller group. If we'll go down to facilities, that you have one that we made some pretty significant changes to, 6 that were just some minor edits. We had 1 that were really no changes to. Again, it's a policy we've revisited recently. So not as much in the F grouping.
I didn't have anything that had to be done on F's.
Maybe while we're waiting for President Meeks to see if she had any, Kevin, you could take Dr. Cuneo through the very small change to DLCAR.
Oh, yep, DLCAR. Yep. So we did include, in addition to the reviews of the E's and the F's, we did have one other regulation that we were bringing just to make sure that we matched practice. And so this was a minor tweak to the travel expense policy. So reimbursement for meals is limited to $60 per day. We were removing the $30 maximum reimbursement for one meal. Employees would still have to stay under the $60, but we were having challenges with staff who were traveling for trainings or conferences to more expensive cities, that it's challenging to stay in that $30 for a meal, especially for dinner. So it gives them a little bit of flexibility that if they go over, as long as they're under $60 for the day, they're okay. So that's
Okay.
what this adjustment's for. Yep. Any questions on that one?
No, not at all.
And then while we're waiting for President Meeks, the next grouping that we'll be looking at, we're just continuing down the alphabet. So we're looking at the G's, and then Wendy, is I's grouped with the G's? or are they separate?
I believe they're separate.
Okay, so we're looking at the Gs next.
Okay, I have not looked at a single G.
Mhm. Yeah, so that'll be next board policy committee meeting. We'll be looking at the Gs.
Okay,
But unless we want to pause on that, which I'll talk to Dr. Macklin on it.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Gs.
all
I
right.
apologize. I had to step
So
away.
that's okay. But President Meeks, on the facility side,
Yeah.
Dr. Cuneo had no questions. Were there any that you wanted Kevin to review?
No, nothing that I could think of.
Okay. And then
Offhand.
we also did DLCAR, which is merely a change to the meal provision. It's still $60 a day maximum, but we're removing the $30 per meal.
Per meal situation. Okay.
Mhm.
Yep. Because as you know, if you're in Atlanta trying to have dinner, $30 might not cover it.
No, exactly. Yeah, I hate the per meal per diem. Just make it
Yeah.
a day. If I just want a coffee for breakfast, just that should be
Yep.
fine. Perfect. Other than that, just double check all those dates because there were random ones that
Yep, we
were
will
off.
double check those dates.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time. And these
Thank you.
policies will be going to the January board meeting for first reading.
All righty. Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.